Now that I've created my basic table, created the geometry, created a number of types, and loaded it and placed it into a project, let's go make some changes to explore some advanced geometry creation methods. To edit a family from within a project, I simply select an instance of the family, and on the ribbon I then select Edit Family. This will then open the Family Editor environment that you will now be familiar with. As mentioned in a previous video, there are a number of methods to create geometry inside the Family Editor, and in the next few videos we'll explore each of them separately. Firstly, we'll look at blends, which creates a solid 3D shape that changes along its path. I want to create a frame underneath the tabletop to support the tabletop along the length and width of the table. I'm going to go to the front elevation, and I'm going to select this reference plane. I'm just going to copy an instance down by 120 millimeters. I'm going to draw a dimension, and instead of assigning this dimension to a parameter, I'm simply going to lock this dimension so that the reference plane will always stay 120 millimeters below the tabletop, but I cannot edit this distance inside the project because I will not make it a parameter. I'll do the same to this one here, and I will dimension this at 60 millimeters, like so. I'm now going to use the blend tool to create a frame underneath this edge of the table. So in order to do that, I need to go into a view that is effectively looking down onto the profile. So I'll go into my left reference or left elevation, and firstly I want to create some more reference planes for the width of the legs. So I'll draw the reference planes, use the dimension tools, now you'll see what happened. The dimension or the location of the table legs adjusted then when I made these reference planes equalized. So it's important to be aware of how the geometry changes when adding reference planes. I actually need to adjust this location of this witness line, so I can either select move this witness line to the central reference plane here, or I can select the dimension and say edit witness line, select on the reference plane that is currently selected, select the new one, and then deselect. I'll then select these two dimensions and associate them to the leg radius parameter, so they now align to the leg or the individual legs. So now in order to create a blend, I'll go to create and I will draw a blend. Notice that I edit the sketch tool, and there are effectively two sketches or profiles to be drawn for a blend, the top and the bottom. I'm currently in the bottom, but I can select Edit Top to change to the top profile. So firstly, I'm just going to create a shape using the Pick Lines tool, and I'll pick the reference planes to create the larger sketch, like so. I'll then select Edit Top, and I have a new profile to create. So I'll again use the Pick Lines and create a smaller sketch. Once I've completed, I can select Finish Edit Mode, and now if I go into the front elevation, I can see the two different profiles, and if I go into my 3D view, I can see that the blend has been created as solid geometry merged or blended between two different profiles. I can now go to my front elevation and I can click, drag, and lock the extent of the blend, like so. What I can now do is I can just simply select this and I can copy this blend and place it once. However, I'll then want to make sure that the sketches are all associated to these left-hand reference planes. So it's very important, if you copy a piece of geometry, that you edit the relevant sketch or constraints and associate them to the new reference planes in the preferred location. It may seem somewhat tedious and slow, but it is important to make sure that the family adjusts and is constrained appropriately. Now when I go back into my 3D, I have these two blends here. If I edit the properties of the table, I can see the width changes, and if I change the depth, I can see here that I've forgotten to drag the extents of this copied blend, so I'll need to go into my front elevation and again select, drag and lock to the reference plane. I can see here that it's not quite snapping, so I must be careful to make sure that I hover over and are correctly aligning and locking to the reference plane. Change the parameters back, and I can see that the blend updates appropriately. So that is how to model blends within the Revit family environment.